Here's a question for you. By what means does a thing become moral? Not on an individual level. On an individual level, we have things like mentorship, we have things like religions, we have things like secular humanism. Although, for the record, name to me one significant moral progression that came as a direct result of secular humanism. They might exist, but you'd have to prove that to me. No, on a societal level, what is the progression by which a thing becomes moral? Because it feels like there might be different phases to this. So there's probably what you consider like an initial conception phase, in which either maybe a narcissistic intellect would come up with a really intuitively correct idea and try to make it work, or a person of religious bent would step out in faith with regards to their religious text, right? In either case, you're essentially having someone who's saying, okay, everyone else is doing this differently, but I'm going to do it this way, right? And theoretically, if their idea is intuitively correct, and they can convince people of that with regards to the intellect, or if it's scripturally valid with regards to the religious person, the movement can then proceed from there. At which point it might enter a phase of what you consider a supererogatory or supererogatory. I think I like saying supererogatory better, but there might be a long O in there. If you don't know what that means, no shame there. Supererogatory means something to the effect of an act that's morally praiseworthy but not morally obligatory. So if you think of selflessness, if there's a building on fire and a man runs in and saves someone, when he comes out, he will be praised for that act. But the people who praise him won't also round up everyone who didn't run into the building and put them in jail. Right? This is a morally praiseworthy act, but not morally obligatory. So you have a conception phase, supererogatory phase, at which point, theoretically, it could proceed to a phase in which it is near enough universally adhered to and near enough universally disparaged if you don't adhere to it, at which point it becomes a morally obligatory precept which we expect everyone to abide by. If you want an example of this, you could think of the idea of slavery. A couple hundred years back, slavery was largely considered to be okay, right? There were a lot of people who freed their slaves, not necessarily out of a sense of moral obligation. At least they would not have been put in jail if they didn't free their slaves. It was kind of an above and beyond act at that point in time. But today, at least in the West, we largely consider slavery to be a morally obligatory thing that is to be avoided, right? This is a precept which we expect people to abide by. You cannot own another human being, right? That's a case of successful moral progression. If you want to see a case of failed moral progression, prohibition and abstinence might be a case of that. But it's kind of an interesting concept to try and think of, like, what is the moral landscape going to look like 100 years from now? Hopefully better, but I guess we'll see. Anyways, if you have thoughts on that, let me know. Alright, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you like.